What's up, YouTube? Quick motivational video for today. I want to talk about how L's in a long enough time frame become W's. And I want to give this a quick, simple, relatable story for you to kind of understand this idea. So essentially, as I was at the airport and my flight was delayed. And so it was delayed by an hour. Then I wait an hour. I get a text now 2 hours, 3 hours, and then eventually ended up being 3.5 hours. And I remember thinking like, damn, like, you know, at 1 hour or 2 hour, like I could just totally forget about it, right? Like if I were able to get home just with only an hour or two delay, as soon as I get home, I'm going to forget all about it. It essentially never happened. Whereas once you start getting more and more hours of the delay, once you get delayed by 3.5 hours, Canada Airlines actually has some rule that essentially is like if you're delayed for more than 3 hours for mechanical reasons that are not related to weather, you're able to get $400 cash back. And so for me, it kind of made me realize like, okay, would I have rather been delayed for 2 hours and received nothing, or be just delayed for the 3 hours, 3.5 hours and receive $400? In my preference, I would prefer to be delayed and receive the $400 because who doesn't love some cash back? And I just wanted to talk about how that kind of concept of if you take a small L, it's nothing. But once you take a big L, it leads to something good. It seems to happen over and over and over in my life. And I'm just curious to see if anybody on YouTube kind of relates the same way. So quick story, when I went to university, I was kind of jumping between different schools, not different universities, but from marketing to computer science. And I remember I really wanted to join the School of Computer Science. And so I tried my best. And in the end, my GPA sucked so bad, I never ended up getting to formally enter computer science. And it's kind of funny because during that time it was a big L for me. I was a big computer guy. I've always loved computers. And so it just made me feel like, oh my goodness, my horrible study habits have now led it so I cannot actually graduate with computer science, despite the fact that you know, that's actually something I really loved and enjoyed. But it was only after school, after, you know, being 4 years after school, I really realized that one, I'm not that good at coding. I'm much more of a strategist, much more of a marketer, more creative thinking. And so really, if I had landed in computer science and then got a programming job, it actually would have added a cap to how good or how fast I could rise, simply because it's just the straight point where if you like doing something, you're going to learn it quicker. And in the end, it turns out my main skills really was being able to talk, being able to convince, being able to strategize. And so that's kind of like an extended delay of showing how, like, even if it was an L at the very beginning, only after 4 years after university, starting to really understand what makes me different, what are my skill sets compared to other people, it made me realize that, yeah, like the technical knowledge, that's not me. If I were to go to a room with 100 other people at the same smartness as me, I would wager that probably 80 of them are probably better at technical, probably better at technical, probably better at math, probably better at memorizing things. And so with that, it just kind of goes to show that, like, only after I had to go through the 4 years of, you know, being graduated, trying to think like, did I do the right thing? That's when I started to realize, like, actually, me not getting into computer science ended up being a big win for two reasons. One, like I just said, my personality didn't really fit it that well. But two, computer science is kind of in a crazy ass field right now. If anybody's in the United States, I think it's a global thing, but if anybody's in the United States and you're a computer science student, bless you. I wish you luck in your journey. It's just shit right now is so ungodly hard. I have friends from better schools than me, smarter than me, in computer science, and they're not really able to find a job. And so the idea that me, this idiot boy, is somehow going to be able to compete with that is laughable. And so being rejected early there and letting that L simmer ended up making it a W. And so that's just essentially the main idea. I had another story, but to be honest, I just feel like that two story, one, being at the airport, and two, my university experience, already gives you kind of a good idea in terms of what does it mean to take an L, and how does not dwelling on an L, but letting that L take some time, you'll eventually realize that potentially it was for the best. And I think that's sometimes a little bit hard for people to see, but it makes sense because when you're taking that L, you don't see the future. You don't know, if it's the right or wrong thing. It's just something that you want to do. If I'd asked myself, younger me during university, like, how do you feel that you weren't able to get into the School of Computer Science? I mean, I would have hated that shit. But now 4 years later, I feel like that was honestly the best thing that could have ever happened in my entire life. And so it's funny how things change. And so I really just want to throw this video out there just for anybody listening. If you've been taking, if you've taken L's or you're taking L's, don't lose hope. In fact, I typically like to wager that the more L's you stack, the closer you are to your next W. So whatever it is, just don't let the L's bring you down. L's are just L's at the end of the day. You always get a constant chance to be able to re-roll for your next W. And I know that sounds like some hella gambling talk. I'm not talking about gambling. I'm talking about, investing in yourself. But it's kind of the same idea in the sense that everybody gets a chance, everyone gets a percentage, and everybody's context is changing along the way. And so what you consider an L beforehand is eventually going to turn into a W. At least that's how it ended up being a lot in my life. So I'm just curious, like, is that something that you've noticed too, or am I just totally crazy and I'm just somehow able to look at L's as big W's? Or, is this something that affects you too, where you was really saddened by something, you wanted a certain job, you wanted to go to a certain school, and then, years later you relook at it and you realize that, the path that you took was perfect. Even if young you wanted some different plans, in the end, the path that you took was perfect. So other than that, that was all I really want to chat about today. So I appreciate you watching. I'll talk to y'all later.